Playing armchair booker can be a lot of fun, even though odds are pretty good that whatever we come up with is probably not going to make the final cut, especially considering that there are so many different ways that just one angle can turn out. Take for instance, the tribal chief, and who's going to be the one to finally dethrone him. It's gotta happen sooner or later, right? And in fact, I could come up with at least 5 different wrestlers in 5 different ways that the tribal chief can finally be usurped. And those 5 wrestlers are going to be the topic of this episode, because today... Thank you so much for the support over on Patreon, Inigo Montoya. And if you're looking to get your own Patreon shoutout, please sign up over on my Patreon page. Because as a Patreon supporter, not only do you get to vote on the content that comes out on this channel, but you also get exclusive bonus content. Not to mention that I really do appreciate all of the help, and it really does help to keep this channel going. Anyway, with that being said, sign up over on my Patreon page, and now let's get into the video. Okay, so just to demonstrate how many different outcomes one storyline can possibly have, I decided to break this one down in 5 different ways. Now, this is not saying that I think any of these storylines is actually going to happen, nor am I saying that they should happen either. This is just a fun thought experiment to see how many different variables that one person can come up with. And I encourage you to come up with some of your own and leave them down in the comments. And while you're at it, if you could please consider subscribing, as it really does help this channel out and I'm really looking forward to it. Please help me get to my goal of getting that silver play button. Getting back to the episode, I do want to say that each and every one of these storylines does indeed conclude at WrestleMania, as I feel that's the only place where Roman should be dethroned. And furthermore, since we only have one top prize in WWE right now, that also means that every single one of these wrestlers is going to win the Royal Rumble in order to do so. And again, just to be clear, I want to make sure that everyone knows that I'm not saying that any of these are going to happen, and in fact this first entry is going to be debunked by Monday. Why? Well, let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay, so as of this recording, the upcoming episode of Monday Night Raw is going to be the 25th anniversary of D-Generation X. But whenever we have one of these DX reunions, it never ends with a new up-and-coming team completely running them over and really getting the rub. And so this time, I propose while they're in the middle of doing this celebratory crap that they always do, they get interrupted by the tribal chief himself. And after a heated exchange, Roman says he doesn't care what Triple H's title is because he himself has the real titles in WWE and that he's the one who truly runs this company. Both teams look like they're about to throw down when suddenly Hunter grabs his chest, and immediately Raw cuts to commercial. And when we get back, Corey Graves announces to the audience that Triple H was rushed to a nearby medical facility as a precautionary measure and assures everyone that he is indeed fine. Following this, we don't see Roman Reigns for over a week, and when we finally do, it's back on SmackDown, where he tells the crowd that Hunter should have known what could have happened to him just by setting foot inside of Roman's ring. And after all these years of hearing, "Are you ready?" Hunter should have asked himself that. Furthermore, he also says after he beat him at WrestleMania 32 that he's not sorry that he showed him he has no place in this industry anymore, he's just sorry he didn't do it sooner. And then this is followed by where The Rock tells Roman that he can't believe that he is this far gone, that any relative of his is going to have this little remorse, which of course is beginning to plant the seeds of Roman versus The Rock. After this, we get very sporadic appearances from the People's Champion and barely a mention here and there. This of course continues until the Royal Rumble, where the last 2 competitors after number 29 hits the ring are both of the Usos. But before number 30 enters, the Road Dogg, Shawn Michaels, and X-Pac storm in, taking both Jimmy and Jay out, meaning whoever number 30 is going to win by default. And wouldn't you know, it's time to play the game. Triple H makes his way to the ring slowly and enters as number 30 and the winner of the Royal Rumble. This is followed by the next night on Raw, Triple H saying as much as he appreciates it, he can't compete against Roman at WrestleMania yet again. And his other DX members also declined the role as well, to which Trips replies that if he can't give his spot to an old friend, how about an old enemy instead? And out comes The Rock. They acknowledge how weird it is that Triple H is coming to The Rock for help, but they also acknowledge that if anyone could dethrone Roman, it has to be the great one, with the Tribal Chief storyline being all about the head of the table and leader of the family. And so it just makes sense that if anyone was going to take the title off of him, it should be the real top earner in the family, who of course is the People's Champion. And I know that this is going to clash with a lot of people's expectations, especially considering that sometimes what makes literary sense doesn't always make wrestling sense. As stories tend to work with everything coming full circle, like a hero's journey, and they also do things like foreshadowing. Where with wrestling, a lot of times it's about moving things forward and setting up the next generation to take over after the last one retires. Oh, and also being predetermined, they're not too keen on giving away their endings before they happen. And so, while The Rock may not seem like the best possible choice from a wrestling standpoint, from a literary one, he really is the perfect pick, especially considering that the Tribal Chief storyline is all about family. Now, that reminds me, as far as WWE is concerned, Roman has had two wrestling families, the other being the Shield, and well, it seems like some people have forgotten that as recently as this year's Royal Rumble, Seth Rollins does have a win over the Tribal Chief, winning via DQ at the Royal Rumble, with their match being one of my own personal favorites of the year, and it was all centered around the idea that Roman Reigns was never able to beat Seth Rollins in a championship match. Well, I say it's time to revisit this. Especially since, as of this moment, out of all three members of the Shield, Seth Rollins is the only one without a world title. And to remedy that, we're gonna turn Seth Rollins babyface. During his match with Matt Riddle at Extreme Rules, again we have another one that's gonna debunk itself pretty quick, Bobby Lashley interferes with the match, attacking Matt Riddle and interfering in his match as a result of Matt Riddle interfering with his. However, Seth doesn't want to win this way, getting mad at Lashley for costing him what should have been his first win in the fight pit. So now this double turns the two of them, with Bobby feuding with both Seth and Matt Riddle until Seth eventually moves on. And move on he will, straight to the Royal Rumble, which he will win, giving him the title shot against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, where they rekindle all of the issues they had earlier in the year, but this time Seth comes out on top with a clean victory. Now, going back to Roman's current family, let's take a look at some of the extended members. One in particular, even though he's only honorary. Over the next couple of months, Sami Zayn will prove his worth to the Tribal Chief even more, by not just earning his keep, but going above and beyond, taking out any potential opponent of Roman, as well as eating any attack that possibly comes Roman's way. Now eventually, this turns to all of the Usos, Jimmy, Jay, and Solo, all becoming increasingly suspicious of Sami, with them even suggesting that maybe he's not on the up and up, to which Roman replies that they're simply jealous that Sami can do all the things that they can't, even though they're supposed to. This tension grows and then turns ugly, with Roman Reigns officially firing all the Usos and everybody except for Sami, with Roman then concocting the plan that Sami Zayn is going to not only enter the Royal Rumble, but win it. And then come WrestleMania time, Sami is going to have to lay down for his Tribal Chief. And at the Rumble, Sami Zayn does indeed lay down, but it isn't for Roman Reigns. It's for his best friend, Kevin Owens, as the two eliminate every single other competitor in the Rumble, only for Sami to then step over the top rope and let KO get the win. This results in the prizefighter getting another shot at Roman Reigns, and it also pays off some of the winks they've been giving at the audience, showing the possible cahoots between KO and Sami. Now of course, there's a lot of variations that could happen within this variation. For example, Sami Zayn could be the one to dethrone Roman himself and we can just cut the KO part out. Or, what I think is more likely going to happen is that the Usos won't be fired by Roman, but instead that's going to be Sami, which leads to him teaming up with Kevin Owens, and the two of them are going to dethrone not the Tribal Chief, but instead the Usos and become tag champions. Now, I've said it before, I have no idea why so many people were just so sure that Drew McIntyre was going to be the one to take the titles off of Roman, but maybe they were onto something just a little bit early. In the War Games match at Survivor Series, the Bloodline is going to go against 5 babyfaces that have all developed some kind of beef with the Tribal Chief over the past 2 years. And of course, one of them is going to be Drew McIntyre, who is actually going to collect the win for the team, as the true purpose of War Games is to have a dominant heel faction with a dominant heel champion being able to lose an important bout to a bunch of babyfaces who they've been pretty much beating the whole time, allowing for the good guys to seem effective, but still keeping the title on the heel champ. That is, until you're ready to take it off of him, which they will be at WrestleMania, which he'll do to Mr. McIntyre, who says that he's tired of missing out on the moment that he feels he's due, between having to win the title in front of an empty arena and not being able to win the title at Cardiff. Drew states that now is his time and he's not going to let this opportunity get away from him. It's third time's the charm and he's going to win that title not just at WrestleMania, but he's going to do it in front of a full capacity crowd, giving Drew that big WrestleMania moment that so many people feel that he truly deserves. Okay, so while Drew McIntyre's dream in Cardiff didn't come true, maybe it's an American nightmare that's gonna come true instead. Now, of course, this is all contingent upon when exactly Cody is going to be able to return to the ring. But for the purposes of this story, let's just say he gets to do it before 2023. Now, after the American Nightmare comes back, at some point in December, he gets a title shot against Roman Reigns. When exactly this happens in December isn't really as important as the where, because it's going to happen in Madison Square Garden. But while I do have to pick a date, and I could go with a random Raw or SmackDown, instead I'm going to pick a WWE Network exclusive, which will just happen to be Starrcade, as that's going to come back and it's going to be featured on Christmas Day. And here, Cody's going to beat Roman Reigns 1, 2, 3, only to result in the classic Dusty finish, with the referee overturning his decision after Cody collects the W and takes the title off of him, removing the win from the record books and bringing the belt right back to the Tribal Chief. From here, Cody's going to be licking his wounds for roughly about a month, until, of course, he enters the Royal Rumble, wins the whole thing, and then goes to WrestleMania to finally defeat Roman Reigns and become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Well, there you go, 5 possible ways that Roman Reigns might drop the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. But what are some other ways that you could think of, and which one of these ways is your favorite? Let me know down in the comments, and please make sure that you're subscribed to this channel and that you give this video a big like. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to all my awesome Patreons out there, and as always, Dave knows.